Hello there, this is the creation guide for the Paladin in Baldur's Gate. I really feel that Baldur's Gate was made for Paladins. Right off the bat, a Paladin is not going to deliver as much damage as a fighter does, but you're going to get a few additional abilities that help you out when you're exploring the world. But that's not really the reason why Baldur's Gate was built for Paladins, but rather it's in the story and in the character actions. For folks who may not know, Baldur's Gate was developed for being a good character and not for being evil or bad. Your party is going to get a lot more experience from being good and making good heroic choices. Your party is also going to get a lot of money for being a good heroic party. Your party is also going to run into huge trouble if you choose evil paths. Now, unlike quite a few games where being evil is cartoonishly stupid, being evil in Baldur's Gate is possible. And it can be possible through just little kind of glimpses of the dialogue or a couple of key choices here and there. But the end result can be pretty tough unless you make a few good choices here and there to salvage your reputation. Meanwhile, there are no big benefits in experience or in money for making those evil or bad choices all the time, and so your reputation is going to be hurt, and therefore you're going to find certain limits on what you can do in the game. It's a big flaw in the game, and it's a reason why there are folks who really don't like the game world. I can go more into the flexibility of the alignments, my issues, and my compliments with the system, but the Paladin itself is how I'd like to think quite a few of us would actually be. We follow the general rules, we live by a code of conduct, and when people cross us, we slap them down. The Paladin does that and is pretty cool at doing so. For alignment, be lawful good. Don't fall. We're done. For abilities, the good news is that we're going to have a ton of increased scores. The bad news is that we have a lot of high minimum and required scores. For the practical elements of being a warrior, Paladins need strength and constitution. We can, however, have a slightly lower dexterity than our other warriors, because we should be able to have a decent armor class even if our dexterity isn't great. I'd aim for at least 14, but if you need to go as low as 12, you should be fine. There are items that can be worn to boost our dexterity, and there are spells that can be cast later on that can give us some damage reduction. So there are ways to keep our Paladin's face pretty. Speaking of keeping our face pretty, Charisma is automatically boosted to a set minimum score of 17, and Wisdom is set to a minimum score of 13. You can dump Intelligence. You're not going to be using it, you little dumbass. For skills, Paladins have a weaker version of Turn Undead. That could be kinda nice in later Baldur's Gate fights, but it's not going to be as good as the Cleric. For weapon proficiencies, Paladins have the same setup as Rangers, in that they can only put a maximum of 2 points into any one weapon, except they don't get the automatic 2 points in two-weapon fighting. Now, one thing that we will do when we're doing our playthrough is that we're actually going to focus on two-handed weapon fighting. So we will, when we do our playthrough, we're going to do 1 point to two-handed weapon fighting, 1 point into a ranged weapon, either crossbows or longbows, and then 2 points into either two-handed swords or halberds, as they give us our biggest amounts of damage. Now, throughout the entire game, two-handed weapons don't have as many attacks as having two weapons. And so that's going to mean that there's going to be fewer attacks, and that's going to be a little less damage per turn, every turn. But early on, that can be pretty nice for hitting more reliably, and you're going to do a large amount of damage with every swing. And yes, there's a very good Paladin-only weapon, two-handed sword, in Baldur's Gate 2. Though by that point, we'll naturally have a few other options for weapons. But I'd be lying to myself if I said I wasn't aiming for that big old sword. I'll be putting together a playthrough of a Paladin eventually. Until then, you should check out my other starter guides and my other playthroughs on Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. That'll be it for the video. Feel free to comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. Anyway, for now, take care and good luck. We're all counting on you.